Welcome to another episode of Sips and Screams, where twin sister horror movie fanatics sip themed cocktails and discuss our favorites in the genre. Today we are going back to 2009 to discuss Paranormal Activity, apparently the most profitable movie ever made. More on that later. Written and directed by Oren Peli, and really kind of catapulted the found footage horror movie genre and launched a franchise. So we cannot wait to dive in and just go over everything paranormal in this movie. I'm Ashley, and joining me today, as always, is my twin sister, Allie. Allie, how are you doing? Experiencing anything paranormal lately?
I'm great. I mean, I felt like I was,
Yeah.
This was an interesting rewatch. I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, my goodness. So this is episode 6. This is kind of a really important episode for us. We're 6 episodes in.
I know. I can't believe it.
I know. It just seems like yesterday we were discussing 1408. So as always, if you want to reach out to us, please do. We love messages, comments, DMs, everything. Please reach out to us. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, even TikTok. And our handle is at sipsandscreamspod. And we are available wherever you get your podcasts. And please subscribe, like, and rate. We would love to hear what you think of the first 6 episodes. If you are old school and want to Gmail us, and I have to say, I was giving the wrong Gmail in previous episodes for some reason, so let me correct that. Our Gmail is sipsandscreams.podcast@gmail.com. So please reach out if you have anything to say and want to connect with us. We would love to hear from you. Okay, it's time. It's early, but it's time. It's time for killer cocktails.
Killer cocktail time.
You have to do that every time, Elle. You have to sing it. I love it. I look forward to it.
At this point, it's muscle memory. I can't help it. I will do that every time now, Ash. And I'm excited for the killer cocktail today.
Absolutely.
What do we have, Ash? What is it?
Okay. So we thought about this, and most of the movie is at nighttime. So they're like literally in pajamas, 90% of the movie. So we are wearing pajamas this morning. That's number 1.
We are.
So what goes well with pajamas and nighttime and morning? Mimosas. We're doing mimosas.
Mimosas, yes.
I could not be more excited.
One of my favories. Yeah. I know. Me too.
This one's for the girls.
I like this choice.
This one's for the girls going out to brunch.
And the guys
and the guys
and everyone. I think everyone enjoys brunch. And who doesn't like a mimosa in the morning or midday or whenever?
Yeah, you can have mimosas with a variety of different juices. But I like the OG, the OJ. I mean, that's what it's the original. It's the best. But whatever you're drinking,
I think places are getting a little, they get a little fancy these days.
Yeah.
They're doing blood orange. I've had a watermelon mimosa recently. Yeah, it's okay. I still like the original. I still like just plain old OJ.
All right, should we do this?
Yeah, let's do this. I've been waiting, Ash. Yes.
Yeah. I pre-poured my orange juice. So what do you got? I got a nice Prosecco.
Same.
When you're making mimosas, don't go crazy. Be very demure about it. Don't go crazy like those other girls.
Should you be mindful with your sparkling wine choice, Ash?
Be mindful of it. And don't go crazy. Just get a nice Prosecco because you're gonna mix it up with OJ. All right, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think Prosecco is the best sparkling wine to have with mimosas, and I have tried all of them.
Yeah, not for lack of trying.
Not for lack of trying. I have tried. I think it's the best. I also think it's very important, the ratio of orange juice or whatever kind of juice you're using.
I knew you were going to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about ratio. Friends of mine will who know me well, know that I only like a little bit of OJ in mine. You don't want to ruin it. So, just a little bit. Just a little bit in there. Add some color.
But very interesting. So you pour your OJ after. You pour the...
I like to control
Prosecco.
it. I like to control it, Ash. I like to control the color. I like to make sure that it is not too, cloudy.
I like pouring it on the bottom, then watching the color just like manifest as you pour the Prosecco in.
Yeah, but look at yours compared to mine. I mean, listeners, I know you can't see this, but hers is much a much deeper orange color. Yeah, more
apologies. Yeah,
I certainly like just a little splash of OJ.
Mm-hmm. All right. Cheers,
Ash.
Mm.
Yeah, that goes down easy. Yeah.
That's great. Top of the morning to you.
Yeah, top in the morning. Yeah, for those of you listening, watching, we are coming. We're recording this one in the morning.
We are. I think if Mika and Katie had some, mimosas in the morning, maybe things would have been okay. They would have been less terrified.
Yeah, maybe they wouldn't have minded the demon that much.
So, as we said, we're dressed in pajamas. It's, a morning episode. And I also want to say I'm rocking that side part, just like Katie. So I'm really, really embodying Katie.
You're not cool these days, though, Ash.
I'm not cool.
The middle part is in.
Apparently, it's making a comeback.
Yeah. Well, I just never.
Mark my word,
changed.
It's coming back.
Oh, is it going to come back? Okay. Mm-hmm. I just have kept the middle part my whole life, and it just goes in and out of, in and out of style. But every 10 years, I'm in style. So
yeah, but every
10 years, I'm out of style as well. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but when the side part comes back in, I'm just gonna walk sashay out the door and just walk outside and be like,
very
what's
demure,
up?
very mindful of you.
I'm very mindful, very approachable. Yeah. All right, we are moving on to sips and synopsis. Allie, take it away. Tell us about Paranormal Activity.
All right, one sip and then I'm getting into it. All right, Paranormal Activity. Like you said, this movie, we're going back to 2009. 2007, I guess, Ash, if you were one of the very few people that saw this at its very first screening of Screamfest. Yeah. Right. But it wasn't released to the general public until September 2009.
Right.
So
you had to fight. You had to fight to get that released in your college town. They did a lot of guerrilla marketing and word of mouth marketing to try to bring, they were like, if you want to bring this movie to your town, email here, sign up here. I forget what it was. But you had to fight for it.
You did, which is great too. I remember that, we all remember that trailer, right? And the trailer itself featured audiences watching it.
Yes.
And I think that was very, very effective.
Don't watch it alone.
Immediately wanted to see it. Yeah, don't watch it alone. More on that later.
Yeah.
So 2009, of course, this movie was written and directed and financed by Orrin Helly.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, right, it made for very little money. $15,000 is all they used for this movie. And it, of course, grossed. Yeah, he financed himself. It grossed upwards. It was almost $200 million. So like you said, the most profitable movie of all time, according to those numbers. And so this movie, again, not many characters in this, but at the very beginning, we are introduced to our two protagonists, Katie and Mika.
Well, protagonists?
Well, okay, fine. I'm going to say two protagonists. Let's say one protagonist, maybe.
At the beginning. At the
beginning, there are protagonists. So, you've got Katie coming home and she's being recorded clearly by we know it's a found footage movie and like you said, really catapulted the genre. But she's being recorded by her boyfriend, Mika. And so she comes home and she's,
she's not into it either. She's not into the recording.
He's very into this. He's very excited about it.
For many reasons.
And she isn't.
Yeah.
That's right. And so she comes home and this is when we first realize, understand why he's got this camera. So they've just moved into this house in San Diego and some weird things have been happening. Yeah. Some little things at night, things being misplaced. She's hearing things and we hear about her story that she has been experiencing these paranormal things since she was 8 years old. Yeah, events since she was 8. So her and her sister Christy would experience these things in their bedroom, in their house before it burned down.
Yeah.
And so he bought this camera to record some of these events that are happening.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really get what his plan was, but without it, there would be no movie. So here we are.
That's right. We needed that documentation. That kind of as you're watching the movie, have to remind yourself of it. Because you're like, why aren't we seeing other things? We're only seeing when he picks up that camera and films.
Yeah, and that house too. I mean, that's a pretty nice house. It's in San Diego. I'm like, how do they afford this? Exactly?
And they're young. She's a student, and he is a day trader, we learn in the movie. And I think they've been together for 3 years.
And that was Orrin Pelly's house.
That's right. Yes, it was his house. Mm-hmm. So he had this idea, I guess, for years to make this movie. Mm-hmm. He finally wrote the script. He financed it himself. He filmed it in his own house, I think, over the course of a week. And then they had reshoots. But yeah, he really went all in on this. And he even said, if it doesn't work, it's okay.
It's okay. He had this idea. $15K out.
Yeah, exactly.
He apparently he did a bunch of renovations because his house was kind of, as he said, normal looking. So he did all these renovations to up the creep factor, add in the hardwood.
Yeah.
And the entryway.
The hardwood. And that's key.
Yeah.
The hardwood is such a key part because there was carpet in there and he ripped that carpet out. He added in hardwood and it is, obviously the pinnacle of the movie takes place on the stairs. So yes.
You need that sound. You need that thumping.
You do. Oh yeah. Oh, it's good. And so I think, like you said, like we said earlier, the reason we're in pajamas is because most of this movie takes place at night. So again, brilliant, right, cinematography. So the camera is set up at night while they sleep, because that's when a lot of weird stuff's happening. So Mika sets it up with a view of the bed, and not just of the bed, but of the bedroom door as well. So you could actually see into the hallway.
Yeah.
So at night,
good.
these night, they're not black and white, right? But there's no lights on. So it kind of looks almost like black and white at night.
Yeah.
And then and I think something brilliant that Oren Peli did as well was he put the timestamps on. So you could see like when they went to bed, and then it
that came later. That came later. It was like
I read about that.
Yeah, like a last minute addition, but it was so effective.
Yeah. So effective. And he takes you through the nights too. So you start and it's like night one. And not much happens night one, right? You see one little thing at 2:08 a.m., a little sheet moving, but that's it. And then they rewatch it. So in the morning, I think, you have all this sinister, crazy stuff happening at night. And then you get to the day, to the morning. And you feel like safer again. But they're able, something also effective in it, right? So they'll rewatch it. So we see some of these things happening at night. And even like that very first next day, Katie finds her keys in the middle of the kitchen floor. And she's like, I didn't move these. Did you, Mika? And he's like, no. So, not only is
benign, but like scary in the moment, in the context of this movie.
Right. And like, maybe you moved them. Maybe you just forgot last night.
Maybe
after you had some wine. Yeah. Maybe it was you. But obviously they're getting freaked out. Katie's very skeptical about the camera. Mika really wants to, use it to capture all these things that are happening. And so the whole movie, it really takes you through various nights, all the way out, I think, to night 20. And so each time you see things start escalating.
Yeah.
And at one point,
it gets worse and worse and worse.
Worse and worse until that very last scene.
And you're like dreading the night scenes. You're like, oh God.
Oh, you are. You're watching it, and then you're like, oh, here we go. They're like brushing their teeth, getting ready for bed.
What now?
And like, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure I could just like get into bed every night like that.
No.
Knowing that like what you've seen on tape, that these crazy things are happening. No, I'm not sure I could fall asleep. Not without some like help.
I'd be like sleeping in a tent or some help. Yeah. I'd have some drinks before bed. Yeah. Maybe a sleeping pill. I don't know.
Lights on too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe lights on.
Lights on. But they just turn those lights off, get into bed. With just the sheets, there's no comforter or anything like that. I don't know if you picked that up. I'm sure there was a reason so that the sheets would move, but they're just like getting into bed with just like a sheet.
Their comforter was like in the corner or something. This is San Diego. So like the nights are cold.
San Diego.
They
are cold. You need it. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I live in Florida.
You cools down every night there.
You can probably, forego the comforter. But, when you get that AC going, I don't really understand. But yeah, for visual effects, they probably needed the sheet.
So, things are escalating at night, but I wanted to talk about one of the pivotal scenes in it too. At the beginning is, Katie wants to talk to a psychic. Mika doesn't want to. Mika wants to solve this himself. Mika wants to, figure out what's going on. But she brings in a psychic, Dr. Fredericks. So Dr. Fredericks comes in and they meet him. I know Fredericks is great. And do you know that they originally had someone else cast for Dr. Fredericks? They filmed a few scenes with him, but he wasn't great. Yeah, he wasn't great at the improv, because this whole movie, I should have said this at the beginning, but there wasn't a real script. There was kind of direction, but not a real script. So they really had to come up with a lot of the dialogue themselves. And so the new Dr. Fredericks, the one we see in the final cut of the movie, was the second person actually. Oh. And so he comes in and he's great at it, honestly. And he's kind of telling them the difference between ghosts and demons, and how ghosts are real people, were once people, and demons were nothing, right? They're just this really dark, bad energy.
Right.
And all they want is to harm. And he explains he's feeling it in the house that this demon is connected to Katie. And not only is it attached to her, but he even says this at the end of his visit, that it may want to hurt Katie. And he admits that this isn't his expertise, so he recommends that they get in contact with Dr. Avery's, who is a demonologist, and then he leaves. Mm-hmm. So, I think Mika's very skeptical about the whole thing. He doesn't think that Dr. Fredericks is telling the truth. He wants to handle it, and he really wants to get a Ouija board.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, much to Katie.
That's all he wants is a Ouija board. That's all he wants.
He just wants it. And Katie, they have an agreement that he will not buy a Ouija board. Exactly. So, a couple more nights go by, crazy stuff still happening at night. There's lights turning on, there's doors closing. And they're getting ready for a date night, and Mika's all excited because he borrowed this Ouija board from a friend. So
the nicest Ouija board ever.
Oh yeah, and she even says that in it, right? Mm-hmm. He borrowed this really old school nice one, and so he's all excited. He wants to use it. She's upset. They leave for their date night. The Ouija board is on the center of the coffee table, and I guess the camera's set up at night. So I guess Mika sets up the camera on the Ouija board. They leave for date night. Yeah. And we see like immediately as they leave, it starts spelling something out on that Ouija board. So spelling out letters, then it goes down to the goodbye. And then it just, there's just burst of fire.
Yeah.
Right. But it doesn't burn the Ouija board. We just see some fire kind of coming out from it.
Yeah. It dissipates quickly.
Right. So when they get home and then watch the tapes, they see it. And of course are, obviously freaked out by this. But Mika actually goes through and is trying to figure out what it says, and he sees that there's some sort of almost like painting on it, and he thinks that it says the word Diane. And then he does some research and he finds out there was another woman who had a very similar experience to Katie, right? Back in the 60s, I believe it was, and she was also possessed by this demon. They did an exorcist, didn't end so well for her. So Diane does not end up surviving it.
It's very like dated when they go online to look at it. It's like the old school like Google. It's so great. You're like, it's real grainy.
Well, they filmed this, I think, in 2006, right? I know we didn't see it in 2009, but no, it is. And so,
was that Google? Was Safari? What was the search engine?
The search engine back then? I don't know. We should know this. But yeah, so they're obviously freaked out. Katie wants to contact the demonologist, this Dr. Avery's, but they try contacting him and he's out of the country. So they're not able to get him to come see. And again, things continue to escalate at night. They're even kind of leaking into the day. I think one of the latter nights, we see through the camera that Katie wakes up, almost looks like she's like a zombie, like sleepwalking. And she's standing over Mika. Yeah, in a trance, exactly. And so she's standing over Mika, and then we see her just leave the room and go down the stairs. And then Mika wakes up that night looking for her, right? He goes downstairs. She's not there. And he goes outside. And she's just in this like swinging chair.
He also does not turn on any lights. Like there's never a light turn on.
No, there's
You're
not.
Just like in the dark.
There's not. Yeah, with this little camera. So the only light that he has is the light on the camera. Yeah. Just goes out. So your girlfriend's just out there like swinging in this thing, being like, no, I want to stay out here. And he's like, it's really cold. I'll bring you a blanket. And she's like, no.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay.
San Diego nights.
Yes. And they get cold. It gets to like in the 50s there sometimes.
The desert.
Yeah. And so he goes back up to bed and leaves his girlfriend just out there on the swing.
No, he goes to get her. No, he goes to get her a blanket. He's like, I'll go get you a blanket.
She didn't want the blanket.
Yeah, but he was going to get it anyway.
Okay. But then he goes upstairs. Okay. He goes upstairs to get the blanket. Maybe this is their comforter that they don't use.
Yeah.
And he's bringing it down to her.
Yes.
And as he goes up to the room, what does he see, Ash, in the room?
No, the white noise.
The white noise on the
he hears like
TV.
It's like the scariest thing ever. And he sees the white noise on the TV.
The TV's on. And then all of a sudden she's behind him. She's like, oh,
yeah.
She's like, what are you doing? And she's like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. She doesn't obviously remember anything that happened. She was just like, she just says she remembers like dreaming or having nightmares.
Yeah.
But yeah, that TV's on. So obviously like I would be running out of there.
Yeah, same.
And, but they just go back to sleep.
Yeah. Their obsession with sleeping in their own bed is hilarious. I'm like, you don't have to sleep there.
No, you don't.
There's something there. Get out. Go to a hotel.
But they try to
sleep in a tent.
Exactly. But so that's, after all this crazy stuff happens and they like are woken up in the middle of the night by like loud noises and things, they do eventually want to go to a hotel. So they try to get out of there. Right. And so
they didn't try hard enough. I'm just go
at that
go
point,
to that
right?
hotel.
Yeah. And so, before they do that, they were like, they try to contact Dr. Avery's. They can't. He's out of the country. So they contact Dr. Fredericks again. And and he comes back. Not for long, though. So he comes in and then he's there for a good 10 seconds and he immediately senses something really, really bad is there and is out. Yeah.
He's like, I'm out.
He's out.
He was not the hero.
No, he wasn't.
At all.
But maybe the smartest one in the movie. But yeah, so he
I must leave.
Yeah. He's like,
doesn't like that I'm here.
No. Mm-hmm. I mean, that demon doesn't like a lot of things in the movie. And then, she's holding like a crucifix at one point. But anyway, I digress. So let's go to the last night. So they were going to go to a hotel, but then like all of a sudden Katie changes her mind. She's like, no, we can stay here. It's going to be okay now. And they go to sleep. And then like Mika accepts that. And so they go to sleep that like last night. And of course she's already basically possessed by this.
It was his last night.
Yeah. Well, yeah. His last night, not hers, certainly his. And so they go to sleep. She wakes up. We see her go downstairs, and then we just hear this bloody like murder screaming. He goes downstairs. Yeah, blood curdling.
Dear God.
Yeah, we hear things happen. We don't know exactly what's happening. Downstairs, something clearly bad is happening down there. And then it's just the footsteps up the stairs, and you're waiting for it. And then Mika's body's thrown at the camera. You see Katie, she's covered in blood. Mika's clearly dead. She clearly did it. And then we see her, smile at the camera at the end. And then her face is almost like a demon face. And then it cuts to, it lets us know that the police came the next day and found Mika's body, but Katie was not there anymore.
Her whereabouts are unknown.
Yeah, unknown, exactly. So that's the gist of Paranormal Activity.
So one thing I really loved about this, I mean, there was no script, right? He had a treatment, and he gave, like you said, it was improv. So he gave the actors notes or like kind of set up the scene. It was all them kind of improving. And I thought that was fantastic. One of the things that I loved that there wasn't a ton of exposition, right? Like it reminded me of like those older movies where they did that, like Rosemary's Baby and some of those older ones where you kind of had to figure it out. And I love that. I don't want to be like
Pet Sematary.
Everything. Yeah. Pet Sematary. Drink. Cemetery. Okay. And I love that because what I thought was really clever when Mr. Fredericks, was that the psychic?
Dr. Fredericks.
I think he's a psychic too. I don't understand what that was.
I don't know.
He was a whisperer.
Yeah, I think it was
not demons. He had a hard line.
Yeah, there was a hard line there.
He will deal with ghosts, but not demons. Demons, he's out. He's out the door. But what I loved about it when the scene where, because there's no exposition, it just starts very like real world. And then the psychic dude comes in and you get the backstory through the interview. I loved that. And that was so clever.
Yes.
And I'm surprised that wasn't scripted. I thought it was really well done. And it gives you the whole backstory of Katie and her sister, and just like how she's been experiencing these paranormal activities, right? Since she was a child. But I thought that was good. And because there's no script and it's supposed to be like found footage, that was a great way to reveal, I think. The premise of the movie. I thought that was awesome. So I guess there was one more thing too, in terms of like motivating the treatment and creating Paranormal Activity. So Oren Peli, he lived in San Diego, and he did experience these like strange noises at night. So he's like, I'm going to set up these cameras. So like, he set up the cameras all over his house, and then he looked at the footage and he's like, man, this is creepy. And then he wrote the treatment. So it's somewhat based on a true story. And, I always listen. I always get creeped out by the ice machine, and this was in the movie too.
I noticed that actually with the ice machine, because same here. You hear it.
Yeah.
What is that? It's just making ice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so creepy. And we talked about earlier that this movie was 2007 when it premiered at a bunch of festivals. It actually got rejected from a bunch of festivals. Premiered at Screamfest. Screamfest. But I guess it premiered at that one thing, and then Jason Blum, like the Blumhouse guy, saw it, and apparently this is a little tidbit. He rejected Blair Witch back in the day.
Oh, so he's like, I got to make up for that.
Yes, so he saw this. He's like, fool me once. So he's like, I have to like make sure this gets distributed. And then I guess Steven Spielberg like famously got attached to it. He saw it and he was terrified, and and sent it back. I guess the story is that he sent it back in like a paper bag, like the DVD, and said this is haunted. And then he thought it was brilliant. He wanted to put more money into it and reshoot it. And I guess they did a bunch of test screenings with the original footage that the Oren Peli shot, and audiences were walking out. They were terrified. So then they're like, oh, okay. So DreamWorks was like, all right, let's just release this. But they did put money into the sound editing. So it was $15K, but I think they put like $250K or something into the sound editing, which is why it's so
because it is. Yeah, it is. And I always, when I was watching it, you wonder that, right? Like, how did he do all that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess when this first came out, it was only shown on a few screens. And then they did this whole marketing campaign to mainly colleges, saying like, don't see it alone. If you want to see it in your town, click here or email
Which
here.
Which is smart, right? Because I feel like back then, if you think back to 2009, it's like you heard of other people who've seen it. Like you had to go see it for yourself. You had to, is it really as scary as everyone's saying?
And where did we see it? Do you remember?
Oh, I remember where I saw it.
I mean, this was in 2009.
Yeah. And I have a story for this one. So I remember a lot of details about the first time I saw this movie because I was living in, I remember a lot. So I was living in Boston. I think I just moved, my now current husband and I just moved in together, and we were supposed to go see.
You say current.
I know, current husband, as if there's going to be another one. But yeah, current, he was, boyfriend or fiance at that time, not yet married. We had moved into a place in Boston, in Beacon Hill.
Yeah.
We were going to go see this movie that night, and we were both so excited. I mean, obviously me more than him, but I always take people to go see horror movies. And we got in some fight. I don't remember what the fight was about.
Really?
Yes. Do you not know the story?
No, I do not know the story.
Yeah. We got in some fight. I'm not sure what it was about at the time.
Like before the movie?
Before the movie. Yeah.
Oh, before the movie got in a fight. Okay.
Yeah. So I storm out of our apartment. And I'm like, I'm going to go see it by myself then. I went to the
You did the one thing they told you not to do.
I did. Yeah. They said, don't see it alone. And I'm like, challenge accepted. So I was in a fight.
In your fury and your rage.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. And very defiantly, right? And so I go, the theater's packed. I get my little seat. And dear God,
what?
Did I regret that so much? Because I'm sitting there. I mean, I almost am like crying during this. Yeah. I'm sitting there. I have my little sweatshirt. I'm bundled up. I'm by myself watching this in the theater. And then I had to walk home after that. So I watch it by myself. I walk home. And then, to be fair, one thing that Paranormal Activity did do is it ended the fight because I no longer wanted to fight because I was terrified. So the fight ended when I got home that night.
Thank you, Paranormal Activity.
And man, it was... I'm not sure I've been that scared in a long, long time. But yeah, that's when I watched it, 2009, by myself in Boston.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
I saw it in Toronto. I was living in Toronto, and I think I saw it at like AMC theaters. I don't know if I don't think I was alone. And probably
who'd you watch it with?
I have no idea who I went and saw it with. A boyfriend, a friend. I have no idea. I definitely went and saw it with somebody.
Okay. You didn't see it alone.
I did not see it alone, but I do remember going into the theater. Someone stepped on my foot. So I do remember that, and it hurt like hell.
Before? So you just had your foot's in pain while you're watching Paranormal Activity.
Some dude like stepped on my foot, and I was like, ow, and like they didn't even apologize. They just kept on going. So that was my story of Paranormal Activity, but I was absolutely horrified as well by the movie, and gave me nightmares for a long time. So we are moving on to Screamometer. And I think I can predict what both of us are going to say on this one. Yeah. But why don't you, just based on our stories of when we saw it, but why don't you tell us what's your rating on this one?
Yeah, and I say I just watched this 2 nights ago on rewatch, right? In preparation for this. I gotta say I was kind of scared to rewatch it again because I hadn't seen it since I saw it in the theater. I tried before, I couldn't do it. I give this one, this one is at the very top for me. This is a 10 on the Screamometer for me.
Yes. I 100% agree.
Yeah, nothing compares.
Nothing. I'm like, this is a 10.
A 10. Even on rewatch, it's a 10. I was terrified.
When I tell you that I yelped, yelped at the final scene, like, because I don't think I've seen it since 2009.
No, because it's too scary, Ash. It's too scary.
I screamed out, like my poor neighbors must have thought someone was getting murdered. Like I screamed, like I yelped. I was like, "What?"
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Literally, very vocal,
and you know it's coming, but it's like that step up, and you're like,
This movie is the scariest movie of all time. It might be.
I've said this actually since I saw it in 2009. When people ask, I always say Paranormal Activity. Yeah, and I was wondering, I'm like, on rewatch, is it going to be the same thing? Man, those nighttime scenes and all I'm doing in the theater when I watched it the first time. Again, when I rewatched it, you're waiting you just want the daytime to come.
Yeah, you want the daytime to come. It's so scary. And how he did it too, because he stops. It's going fast, the time step, and then it stops. You're like, oh no.
Yeah, something's happening.
And you're just looking at that door, like, what's going on?
You're looking around the room, right, to see it. He was so good with the subtleness of it.
It's like, anticipatory fear. Anticipatory fear is
worse.
I
said that's scary. I said that in one of our early podcasts, actually, that it's worse in 1408. Yeah.
So it was so funny when we announced that we were doing this on Instagram. I had people DM, and they were like, I can't watch it. Like, I can't watch this movie. Like, it scarred me for life. So be brave, everybody. Be brave. Yeah. Rewatch it and then listen to this podcast. And let us know what you think.
And let us know if you had trouble sleeping that night too. I did Friday night. It was brutal.
I had nightmares galore. Next, we have Sip and Tell, where we talk about our personal experiences related to the content of Paranormal Activity. Okay, what have you got? I have a few for this one. This one really delves into anything paranormal, right? Anything that you've experienced. And it's so realistic because it's like at your house.
Yes, I know.
So what do you have? Anything noteworthy?
Yeah. And I'm going to go back a few years. I have a recent one on rewatch that I thought was quite noteworthy, but I remember this. So I think we've all heard, like you said, the sounds in the middle of the night, right? We've all experienced that. And so
sometimes it's our dog, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, exactly. So this was a few years ago when I was living in California. And we were sleeping, my husband and I, current husband and I, asleep, like dead asleep. Like I'd say it's probably like 3 a.m. And I kid you not, we wake up to what sounded like demon sounds. I swear to you. Just like,
what are you talking about? Sorry, and you both?
Yes, we both wake up to this. Do you not know the story?
No.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you told me this.
Well, we wake up to this in the middle of the night. And you're like, what is that sound? We're like, wait, what? And you wake up and then you hear again, it's like, and you're like, what? So I'm like terrified. So like my husband
I'm terrified just listening to the story.
Takes the bat and goes downstairs. We hear it's coming from downstairs.
Oh, you guys have a bat? You had a bat under your bed.
Under the bed, yeah. So he takes this bat, goes downstairs. I follow behind him and goes downstairs and we're hearing it like the whole time. And then we go over to the patio door and our cat was at the patio door. And there was another cat who was in our backyard at the other end of the patio door. Yes. And so he's making just demon like sounds the whole time. And it woke us up. It was one of the scariest things. And then you realize your cat can make these sounds.
Yeah.
So absolutely terrifying. Not paranormal activity, but cat activity. But yeah, very unsettling at 3 a.m. Yeah. So that was great. That was a few years ago.
And I love that it was 3 a.m. because in the movie it was always like 3:13, 3:30, always the middle of the night. All right. So I have a few. Number one. This is just that leather couch, the chokehold. I had the same leather couch that they had. They had the black leather couch.
The black leather couch. I remember this.
The chokehold that black leather couch had on like the 2000s, right? Was substantial. So I did have that black leather couch. It brought back, memories. And was it comfortable? Yes, it was so comfortable.
Oh, you sunk right into that. I remember that couch, Ash.
Yeah, I love that couch.
Yeah.
No, but for real, I do have several stories. They actually all involve what I think was the same paranormal entity.
Yeah.
So I lived in a apartment building in Toronto. It was really old. I think it used to be, there's like stories that used to be like a brothel or something, and that sounds made up. Yeah. You know the place. You've been to it many times.
I do. Oh, yeah.
And it had hardwood and like was really old and, just in kind of an up and coming, I guess, area in Toronto. Yeah. And I was not the only one. There were stories going around that building that like weird things were happening. But I have two things that had happened. So one, I was getting ready for work or something. And I would always like leave the light on in the bedroom, and the bathroom was right next to the bedroom. So I would leave the light on in the bedroom because I wanted it to be light out when I came out of the shower, when I was getting dressed. So I had the light on and I took a shower. And I specifically remember like turning it on. It was one of those like old like toggle lights too, right? So you had to like move it.
House. Yeah,
you had to like move it. So I took a shower, I came out, and then it was off. Like immediately this thing was off.
And you saw it off, right? Like it was turned off.
It was turned off because I went over and looked. I'm like, because I came out, I'm like, wait, the light's off, and I was home alone.
That is terrifying.
That was pretty creepy. I also saw a handprint on a towel in the bathroom, and I took a photo of it. I think I like posted it to Instagram or something because I'm like, what the hell is this? And it looked like recent. Yeah. I saw that, and then another time we were going out, and it was like June or something. It was like Pride Week in Toronto. We were going out, and we were deciding whether or not we're going to wear coats. And we were like, oh, let's not wear coats. Like it looks like it's kind of hot, but it was like raining. So we left our coats on the chair, like by the table, by the front door. And we went out, but then it started to get cold. We went out and we're like, let's go home and get our sweaters, let's get our coats. And we go in and we're like, wait, we go in and they had been moved. Like I remember putting the coats in the sweater.
And your boyfriend, or it was boyfriend at the time, remembers this too, right?
Oh yeah, he remembers it too. And like he kind of like shrugs it off. But we go back home and I'm like, where are they? And I'm like, where's your sweater? Like it was right here, and we're looking for it. And he's like, I have no idea. Like we had set it there. Like I remember seeing it when we left. And it had been hung up in the closet. He went back and he's like, it's actually hung up back here. And he brings it out. And I'm like, what?
That as well. So it was a helpful ghost, maybe.
It was kind of like ecologically, conscious, I suppose.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But the thing is that other people in our building had commented on the same thing without even me saying anything. They said that like clothes would be folded up in the corner. So they were all like very helpful things like turning the light off, saving your electricity, folding, putting your,
just really concerned about the environment.
Very concerned. But these things happened and we have no idea why. But then the lights would turn off and on quite a bit.
Yeah.
But that was, that was my experience kind of related to these things
I
cannot explain. Yeah.
Yeah. That's scary. And even on rewatch, right, the other night, I was, again, going back to the cats, I still have cats. And I think anyone that has cats, I feel like you hear them in the middle of the night and it can sound like Paranormal Activity, but it's just your cats being crazy with the zoomies running around.
Yeah. The zoomies. Yeah. Check out, we posted a video to TikTok.
Yeah.
And Instagram, and check that out if you want to get a little cat horror. You got to wait for it. You do
have to wait for it
to the very end.
But yeah, it's a good one.
All right, I poured another one. So this is cocktail number 2, Mimosa number 2.
Yeah, same here. Mm-hmm. Again with the color, Ash. Listeners, Ash puts way too much orange juice in her mimosa. Let us know how you like yours. Is it like just a splash, or do you like to have it be mostly orange juice?
So let me give you my reasoning behind this. I do this just for the first one, so then when I keep refilling it, like it'll get a little more translucent.
Okay.
So
but you're sacrificing your enjoyment of that first.
I am.
Cocktail.
But I'm getting all that vitamin C, so,
Yeah, you are.
Okay, it is time for Sips and Scares, where we discuss our favorite scary parts of this movie. And my God, are there scary parts? Like this movie, the entire time.
Yeah,
like
most
the whole
of the movie.
Thing.
Yeah.
Listen, when he was like wielding his knife around at the beginning, Mika, like I was like, oh, here we go. Like it starts scary. It ends scary. It's scary in the middle. It's scary the whole way through.
Yeah.
What's your number 1? I think we probably have the same one.
I don't know if we do, Ash.
Oh, okay.
I have a list, but my number 1, and I thought about this a lot. I did.
Okay.
The number 1 it's like night 13, I think. And
you know the exact night. Okay.
I do. Yeah, I know the night.
You took your notes.
And I think it makes sense it's night 13 because it's really scary. But yeah, night 13, they're laying in bed and they're like cuddled in, I think. And we just hear like this huge bang, like bang, and like a scream. And they're like obviously terrified because it's the loudest it's been. So that's the first time where it's escalated to that point.
Right.
And so that you're just kind of not expecting it because up until then, all the scares have been kind of minimal. That one's my biggest scare in the whole movie.
So you heard the sound and then Katie screamed, right? She was always just like freaking out, which I found interesting. I guess that one made sense. But even as the movie progresses, like she's still screaming. It's like they're not used to it at all. They do not habituate to these terrors. Like they get more and more terrified. Yeah. So the number 1 scare, besides the ending. Like I
the ending, obviously, the steps, walk up the steps is really scary. But like I think,
and the body being thrown at the camera, like
like
I
didn't find that as scary. To be fair,
I knew something was coming.
It was the steps. The steps was scarier though. You're like,
no way.
What is that? What is that?
No, you are like, what is that? I'm sorry. When his body goes flying through the air, you're like, that was like the craziest jump scare.
Demon strength during that,
She sure did. She's like smelling the body and then she lunges towards the camera.
Creepy.
So for me, like that was obviously the number 1 scare. But the other one for me was when she gets pulled out of the bed by the demon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's just like, what? And then she gets like pulled down the hallway.
It goes really fast down the hallway.
Like, so intense.
Yeah.
And they've done that obviously in a lot of movies, but I thought that was like the biggest scare. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And then he goes running out after her. The whole thing is him just trying to like save her. But this one, he actually has to go save her because they're trying to like bring her into the attic or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And we didn't talk about the attic part, right? When they put the powder down and they're walking through in the footsteps and then they find the burnt picture in the attic, which and it's interesting. Like there's, he finds that picture. It's the burnt picture from when they were like outside her old house that burned down, and it's above the bedroom. So like clearly it's that bedroom in particular. And like you said, they just keep sleeping there every night.
Like keep sleeping there. They're like egging it on.
Yeah.
So that was another scare for me when he goes up into the attic and something's happening. He brings his camera up because it's all found footage and he's looking around. He's like, what is that?
I I'm surprised he sees it though. Would you see it? Like I wouldn't see that.
I'm like, what is that? I literally,
Yeah.
I thought it was like a glove, like a baseball glove or something.
Yeah, I don't think I would think anything.
But then he's like, I'm going to go get it. He crawls up. Like, who would do
The
that?
insulation.
The insulation. Like, he didn't fall through. And then he knew it was above the bedroom, and he brings it back, and he's like, what's this? And she's like, what? This can't be. And it's a burned picture of her when she was a kid. Just her, not her sister. And I think overall, like the scariest thing, and you mentioned it in the synopsis, but the way it's framed.
Yeah,
right?
the framing.
The nighttime framing, and you're like, it's so anxiety provoking and that anticipatory fear. It's like the bed and then the
hallway.
The hallway with like the endless void.
Yeah. And and he said, so Oren Peli tested this, right? Because he tested the different, like where to do it in the room. He even like bought this bed frame. Yeah. He tested it, and he had a mattress on the floor. He bought this bed frame because it is creepy. And then he tested having that door open as well. And the hallway at the end of the light at the end of the hallway, and those stairs are such a big part of this movie.
So creepy.
And I think another big scare that I have at least is before that last scene, obviously, where you hear the footsteps up the stairs, is when she wakes up and she's standing. Even that's creepy, right? Where she wakes up and is just like comatose, like staring at him for hours. And then you see her walk out the room, and then you hear that blood curdling scream. That's also like so good.
Yeah.
And he wakes up. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're like, who would like go out into that void and go down the stairs? Like it's so
you wouldn't, a non-possessed person wouldn't. I mean, Mika would, I guess, with his camera, but
yeah. I mean, I thought the Ouija board scene was great because they like go out on their like date night. And again, it's just like these little like safety things mixed with the things that are terrifying. Yeah. And then you see it spell it out. And as I was watching it, I'm like, what is it spelling out? Yeah. Right? You're kind of like, you're trying to pay attention. Do you know the
theories on that? The theories of what it spells out?
No. When I was watching, I'm like, does this spell something out? And he kind of explains it spells out Diane.
Yeah, he explains it spells out Diane. And like, you remember, we used to play with Ouija boards when we were kids, right? We like loved it. And so I guess there's theories that it does not spell out Diane.
Oh.
That it actually spells out Mika, and then it goes to goodbye. So it's a almost like premonition, if you will, or a foreshadowing of what's to come, that he's going to be killed. Yes. And I love that theory. Yeah, me too.
Okay, I need to go.
I have a Ouija board. I'm going to look. I just need to like put them side by side. Ash, we should do this and see if it actually spells out Mika and not Diane.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, because he was doing all that. Well, because we could look at, he has like the book where he's like spelling out all the letters that he thought it like touched on with the burn marks or whatever. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, I did not know that. Speaking of the Ouija board, when it spells out what they say in the movie is Diane, there was a cut scene apparently where they show like the possession. I guess it was the 50s or 60s. Yeah. So there was a cut scene where they actually show her exorcism.
And Diane's exorcism?
Yeah, Diane's exorcism. So they're doing the exorcism, and she gets all these like cuts and bruises and like just kind of turns kind of demonic like, which would kind of link the, the ending where you see Katie feel demonic. But I will say this, that I think it was really important, even though they cut that scene, it was really important for them to show like the research that Mika did for Diane, because otherwise you're like, why the hell wouldn't you take your fiance or girlfriend,
get out
right?
Of there.
They weren't
and
go
get out
to the hospital or like go to something.
Exactly. But like they couldn't escape it, right? So it set that up. No matter where you went, it was going to go after you.
But also it was his motivation specifically. It was like, well, they did this and she died, so I don't want you to die.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I don't want to bring in an exorcist, because that was, to me, I'm like, why wouldn't you just like, if you believe in this stuff and it's happening, why don't you bring in like an exorcist? But I think that was really important. And again, there wasn't a screenplay, but he had these like specific kind of plot points that he wanted them to explore in their improv.
And he was a skeptic too, right? So I think that ties into it. He was a skeptic, and throughout he kind of thought he could figure it out. Yeah, that's true. Like he thought it was someone. I mean, what? How are you going to explain the baby powder footprints? I know. If I saw that, you see that, and they still stay there. Oh.
Yeah, I know. Like so creepy. Yeah. But the footprints, because I didn't really like notice it in the moment. You can kind of see it, but like when they show it in the morning, you can see like the footprints like each being implanted. Yes. But they didn't look human. They looked like hooves or like birds' feet. Did you notice that?
I didn't. Like, now that you're talking about it, yes, I remember, because they weren't elongated, right?
No, they weren't.
Kind of like circular.
Yeah. Or like they look like hooves or like I don't know, like claws or something. That's what they look like.
I love that. I love that they never showed the demon. Mm-hmm. I think that makes it scarier. Yeah. Which is, I do have a criticism about the last scene, right, where her face kind of turns into it. Yeah, they didn't need that.
No, he said he didn't want. He actually, when I talk about alternate endings, I'll give you the other endings. But he didn't want the big jump scares. Like it was psychological horror, and they were building on people's
And
like
he did a
internal
good
fears.
job with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was exactly like fill in the blank as you're watching it. It's
Yeah.
so scary.
What I think was brilliant, absolutely brilliant about this movie was it was unrelenting. It didn't let go, but it got worse, right? So it was nighttime, and then eventually it goes into the day where they hear the noise, and then
Yes.
their picture is shattered. It's on the wall, but it's only like Mika's face that's shattered.
Exactly.
He has like a scar or something on his face.
Yeah.
And then Katie's standing there, and she's like, "I can feel it like breathing on me," and then her hair kind of, you see like the wind blow,
Yes.
and it's breathing on her hair, like. That was
that gave me chills. Even you
Right?
just describing it, Ash. I just got chills. That scene, because
you were like,
it's
okay,
it's close by.
nothing's safe, right? Now you're like, this whole thing is haunted.
Yeah.
Just so good. And I can't that's why we gave it 10. So I'm like, there isn't another movie like this.
There
like,
isn't. And there's
it's
nothing
so
on
good.
rewatch too. It's held up, right? That was 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It's held up. Again, I think that, they've taken it really, really far with the sequels and the whole franchise. But man, that first one. And what a brilliant lack of screenplay, just direction of it. Treatment. Yeah. Brilliant.
And we talked about when she's like becomes possessed with him. She's like, well, I think we'll be okay now.
Yeah.
And she gives that like creepy, eerie smile. And then she goes to bed.
She's like sleeping all happy.
But again,
if I was
like,
Mika,
okay.
I know he loves her. Like, I know he loves her. But if I was like Mika, I don't think I'd stay. Yeah, I think I'd Dr. Fredericks it and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, Dr. Fredericks. He's like, this is not for me. I do not want to be in here, and neither should you. I think one more thing it did well. So Katie at the beginning is kind of, she's not carefree, but she's like nice to him, to Mika, and she's like, kind of understanding and stuff. And then as the movie progresses and like it looks like she's becoming possessed, she becomes like really angry. And you can see that change in her personality, right? She's like yelling because she was kind of soft spoken before.
Yeah.
She was like yelling. So I'm like, whoever directed that, was it Oren Peli or like just the actress? I thought that was so good.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of see it, like she's actually changing.
Yeah. She's great. She was nominated for awards for this, and it was just an open casting call for them, right? And she's amazing. He's great too. I think she's brilliant in it though.
Yeah. What is it? Katie Featherstone?
Katie Featherstone. Yeah, they use their real
What's
names
she doing?
in the movie. Yeah.
And Mika, what's his last name? Sloat. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were so good. And like good chemistry. Everything about them was amazing. All right. Now we're moving on to cliches. Okay. So what were the horror movie cliches in Paranormal Activity?
Yeah, I think it was, very original, right? But I think obviously the use of the Ouija board, the doctor coming in, I think Mika, the boyfriend who kind of was playing that character where he wanted to solve it, was also a cliche.
Yeah, and like kind of didn't believe her.
Yeah,
we
always talk about that. There's always someone that just doesn't believe the person.
And I thought, well, found footage, right? Now it's like it's everywhere, but at the time, besides Blair Witch, it was really like the one that. It was, made it more popular, I guess, and it launched a franchise. So the found footage. Yeah. The helpless woman, like, cause Katie, at the end, like she kind of gets her authority back or whatever, but at the beginning, she's a little more helpless and kind of trusting in Mika, which I thought was weird. The helpless woman, when they're dragging her away. And again, I don't remember, was that like one of the first ones that did it? Now you always see it where they're dragging the person away by their feet.
I feel like it was one of the first ones that did it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was,
it was so scary. And I think effective. I think, they did a really good job with it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that loud jump scare. Because they didn't, how movies now, and it's always just like, when that happens, it's like some really loud sound. And they didn't do that as much in this, which I really liked.
The one thing they did, and I don't think this was originally like his idea, but if you rewatch it, the sound is so good, right? If you rewatch it though, they have that little like, I don't know, that like little sound that sounds like the demons, like it's like a little,
almost
audio
like Alien.
change.
Is it Alien or Predator? Oh, Predator. You know what? It reminds you of Predator.
Yeah. So you can tell when the demon's coming, and then like eventually as it goes on, you can like see the shadows on the doors and stuff.
Yeah.
So that might have been a little bit of a cliche. They like at least set you up that's going to happen. So they had the time point, right? The timestamp.
Right.
Although I think it was original at the time, maybe it was in other movies.
Seven did it. That have it. Seven did it for the day at least, right? Because it brought you through it. I think we just talked about this. They did it in session 9 as well. So at least the day. But I think the time stamp of the video was probably the first time, like the actual like hours and minutes going by.
Yeah, and where they stop it and show the scare. I thought that was definitely good. All right, let's move on to rip-offs. Did this one rip anything off? And what ripped off it?
Well, number one, and Oren Pelly was actually, he says this in interviews, right? He was inspired by Blair Witch, but Blair Witch Project. I mean, that was the original, I'd say, found footage film. I think he took it to another level and he made it even better, though.
Definitely.
But certainly Blair Witch.
Yeah, Blair Witch for sure.
Yeah.
I think the movie, it ripped off a few things that came out before it.
Yeah.
The movie White Noise.
I have White Noise written down. But even before that, Ash, Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, absolutely.
Like the original White Noise, and then obviously White Noise. And
yes,
and this.
You're right. The White Noise on the TV screen. It's just like so scary. We had one of those TVs like growing up too, one of those old school like TVs. Yeah. And when you put it on like the White Noise channel, like so scary.
So scary. Especially in a dark room. It's just and it's just that like eerie glow. Yeah, very scary.
I will say when I was watching this, I was waiting for a poltergeist moment in the kitchen. Right. So we saw that in like Sixth Sense.
Me too.
I thought I remembered one. It's the Mandela effect. I'm like, I thought I remembered one where they go into the kitchen. Maybe it's in the later ones. Everything's open and there's stuff on the ceiling. I think that's in one of the later ones where they rip off Poltergeist a little bit.
I think you're thinking about Conjuring too. The Conjuring does that.
I don't know. Listeners, you tell me. I think there's a later Paranormal Activity where there's like stuff, knives or something on the ceiling and they all come down at once.
I think that's Conjuring.
The Conjuring?
I'm telling you, I remember
the
Conjuring. The Conjuring 2 and the knives. Yes, that's the movie you're thinking of. But again, let us know. Is it Paranormal
Activity, like one of the later ones, or The Conjuring where they do that? So I think one that ripped off this movie, and we just saw it recently, and I don't know, it's very hit or miss, I think, in terms of if people like it or not. Skinamarink, right?
So Skinamarink, yeah.
Oh my.
No one's seen Skinamarink, Ash. I don't even know. Listeners, check it out.
I don't know if we're going to do that as one of our episodes because that's a hard watch, I will say. It is scary and they have the white noise a lot in it, but the biggest thing is like the nighttime angles. And it's just like these. Skinamarink is pretty wild. It's kind of the opposite of wild, actually. Not much happens.
Nothing much happens, but it's unsettling.
It's unsettling, and there's like
with you too.
Yeah, so Skinamarink's about these like kids who are abandoned in this house, and it's basically just like these nighttime shots of like found footage, kind of like these cameras in the house showing you like different angles of the house, and it's just like a normal house, but it's terrifying. So I think that kind of ripped off Paranormal Activity, just kind of this real world type of horror.
I have two more.
Okay.
One, the head tilts at the end. I think we all know Michael Myers. So I think, but I think again,
do it. You have to do it, Al. It's like,
okay, I'll do it. So she's like smiling, and it's like that head tilt at the end.
The creepy smile.
Yeah, the creepy smile, and then Smile, right? The movie Smile recently.
Yeah.
But that's almost like it's inspired by all the movies that have that creepy smile in all of them.
Yeah.
There's so many horror movies that do it, and Smile is sort of the culmination of all of it.
Yes.
But yeah, so I'd say those two movies.
Okay, it is time. It's the one we've all been waiting for this one. It's time for alternate endings. I love this segment. It's
my favorite segment.
Yes, it is yours. I think a lot of other people really chime in and love this one too. But I love it when there are so many alternate endings. And do you know how many this one has?
Actually, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear you talk about it, and I'm just waiting. I've only seen that one, the one I talked about where Katie, Mika's body's thrown up. Katie has that weird demonic face, and that's it. That's all I know.
Yeah, and that was the theatrical release, the one that we all saw. So this one has 4 endings.
No, 4 endings?
Yes, the one we saw and 3 other endings. Now,
okay,
only 2 of those 3 other endings were actually shot, but the other one is just as chilling. And I'm going to talk about them all. And there's been tons written about these endings online. You can go look it up, and they have like very specific names. But the one that we obviously saw in the theater was the jump scare one where she comes up the stairs. She's possessed. She goes downstairs, blood-curdling scream.
Oh yeah.
Obviously kills Micah somehow with the knife because she comes upstairs with the bloody knife.
And there's blood everywhere. So yeah,
blood everywhere.
Stabbing him. Yeah.
All over her. Thump up the stairs. Mika's body thrown by Katie, against the camera, which is a crazy jump scare. And then she's kind of like, I don't know, like
a zombie.
The body, like
it's kind of like almost like a zombie, right?
Yeah. And then she lunges at the camera, cut to black, and then it says, Katie's whereabouts are never found. So like pretty terrifying. There are other endings. Okay, so the one you can find this one on YouTube, and it's I guess the title is like The Cops. So I guess this one, she comes back up. It's the same in terms of her going downstairs, and you hear the scream and the scuffle, right?
Okay.
And you don't know that she killed Micah until she comes back up the stairs. But she comes back up walking like a zombie, like you said, in a trance. and comes back in with the knife and then sits down beside the bed. She sits down beside the bed and then she starts rocking.
Ugh.
Right. So very like unsettling. But
that's like, again, chills as you're describing it. So yeah, it's bringing me back.
She rocks for like 2 days. So the time goes by. So she's rocking throughout the night. They show the daytime coming. She's still like doing the slow rocking. Nighttime again. I think it's a whole other day. And then you hear the door open downstairs. The neighbor comes in, discovers Mika's body, screams.
So Mika's body's still downstairs in this one.
Still downstairs for like 2 days.
Got it.
2 days. And you see like, you can see this on YouTube. It's a great, well, we'll talk about kind of the ranking of the endings. And then, so the neighbor leaves, they see the body, and then you hear the cops come in, I don't know, a few minutes later, and you see the light shining, the cops like flashlights shining, they come up the stairs, and then she kind of gets up in her trance, and she still has the knife, and the cops are coming toward her, and she's like, what's going on, whatever. And then the cops are like, put your hands up. So she's kind of coming, like lunging towards them with the knife. And then you see the light turn on in the attic in the background and then shut off, and you hear a slamming of the door of the attic. Okay. And the cops turn around like, what the hell was that? And then he's so surprised by the thud of the attic that he shoots Katie dead.
To be fair, if someone's lunging at you with a knife, though, I'm surprised it didn't happen before that.
I know. So rewatch it on YouTube. You're like, why didn't they shoot her? Because she's coming like towards them. But before they shoot her, like because she was like, what's going on? Looks like the demon. I guess like the shutting of the attic door was like the demon leaving her body, so she technically wasn't possessed anymore.
Oh.
So that's that one, and then you see the cops just being like, what the hell was that? And yeah, cuts to black. So that's like the ending of that one. Yeah. And
was that the original one? Was that the one in the Screamfest? Or what was the ending?
That was the original one in the Screamfest. And I guess the cut to black ending, the end credits are like, we dedicate this to Katie and Mika, because they're both dead in that one. Right. But that one wouldn't have been as good because it wouldn't have spawned all these sequels. Okay,
also, that's some pretty powerful like battery time on that camera. Is it stayed? And also are there video cameras that can record for 2 days? Because again, okay. All right.
Yeah, she's just rocking away. You can again go watch that one on YouTube.
Wow.
And there's 2 more. Okay. This one is called The Throat. And I kind of like this one. And it's reminiscent of another movie, a recent movie that came out that we just talked about in ripoffs. But this one, Katie comes like thumping back up those stairs, right? She's all bloody. She has the knife. She comes slowly walking towards the camera.
Okay.
And then she brings the knife up and has like an eerie smile, and she cuts her own throat.
In front of the camera.
In front of the camera with that eerie like smile. That's that smile. She cuts her own throat, and then she lays lifeless on the floor. Now, I find that really interesting because was it the demon killing Katie? Was Katie trying to get the demon out of her?
I like that one. Exactly. She's like, this is not going to continue happening. I'm not going to continue like killing or hurting people. Yeah. And so she's ending it right there.
Maybe, or it could just be the demon killing her, and that was his way of doing it. The creepy smile makes it seem like it was the demon.
Yeah, true.
So that's the throat. Okay, and then the third one, the other alternate ending, was never shot, actually, but he had like a treatment for it, and it's called the camera. So this one, possessed Katie corners Mika somewhere. I don't know if it was downstairs or upstairs because they never shot it, and beats him to death with the camera. And that's how it ends, and it cuts to black.
So if you were watching this, like the camera is the only way we can see what's happening. So you're probably just like hearing it happen.
Yeah, you're just hearing it, like
the camera.
Seeing the camera like go in and out. I don't know, but I guess people thought that was too disturbing to shoot. I guess, and I guess even the throat one, people thought that was too much.
Really?
Yeah, I guess. So
my favorite one of the ones you've said is the first one, alternate ending, where she's rocking and the police come. That sounds more interesting to me.
So I'm going to challenge you to go watch that on YouTube, because I watched it and I still think, to me, so I guess Oren Peli didn't want the jump scare. He didn't want the throwing
He liked the slow burn. He likes the slow burn. He's talked about that.
But go watch it. It's too damn slow. Okay. She's like rocking for like ever. It's like a 12-minute ending. It's too much.
12 minutes of rocking.
Well, it's not 12 minutes of rocking, but the whole ending is really long. And I guess it's anticipatory. But to me, I think we got the best one. Okay. I think the jump scare, I think that was like Steven Spielberg or someone wanted like that big ending. I think that was better because I remember being obviously very affected in the theater, but even upon rewatch, I'm like, oh my God, and it just ends and leaves you thinking. This one, you have more time to process it with her rocking.
Yeah.
But
I'll watch it. I actually think that the first one, though, the one we've all seen, I loved it. I think I wish they had not done that weird demon face at the end. that like took you, it was the only kind of supernatural, like there are obviously supernatural aspects to it, right? But they weren't visual. And that was the only one that was visual. And I'm like, oh, come on.
All right. We're moving on to the villain. Okay, Allie, who was the villain of this movie?
Okay. The obvious one that I know you're going to say.
I'm going to say, okay.
I would imagine Mika, obviously.
Yeah. Mika, I have it like written in capital letters. I'm like, Mika's the villain. Come on.
You know, he's the instigator in this. He's the one that buys the camera that I think aggravates the demon. I'd say he aggravates the demon. And
he does his best. Like, I know you did last summer, Jennifer Love Hewitt, like, what are you waiting for? He
does that. I thought about that in that movie.
Basically does that. He's like, what do you want? Who are you? I mean, he's
baiting it. He's baiting that demon.
It ripped off. I know you did last summer a little bit. Yeah,
it did. We should have mentioned that in ripoffs, but
he's doing all his research. He's like reading that demon book, which again was a good way to explain, the threat, I suppose. But like he knew what he was doing. Yeah. He was getting himself into. He borrowed that Ouija board. He's the villain.
Who did he borrow it from? I need to know that. Who just had that thing lying around?
Okay, can I borrow this for the weekend? I got some stuff to do.
Yeah. Okay, let's take this one step further though. So Mika, you know who he was arrogance the real villain? Was curiosity the real villain? You know, that led to Mika's behavior during this. Thought.
Potentially. And like he kept saying that he like loved her. Yeah. But if he really loved her, I feel like he would have taken her to a hospital. Yeah. Right? The stuff was happening.
I agree.
And he was just like, what? And they're just sleeping in that bed.
Yeah. And he's just buying it. He's buying all this. And they're like, okay. I'm sorry. When they saw footsteps on the ground, I am out of there.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think some people think Katie's the villain. I mean, she was the victim, right? She was the one possessed from a very young age, targeted, if you will.
Yeah.
I really think she was. I know. I think she was like a marked one or whatever. I guess the later ones talk about the marked ones.
Yeah.
But I really don't think it was her.
Well, the sequel gets into that too. And about like kind of her origin story, her and Chrissy's origin story.
And I think we talked about this before, but like Katie, she was culpable, right? Because she was trusting him. And I guess it was his house and like she moved in or whatever.
Is that true though? I thought they moved in there together.
No, he kept saying it was his house. He said his house like multiple times.
Okay. All right.
Because he was a day trader and she was like a student. How would she afford that?
Yeah. In San Diego too.
Because at first I was like, is that her family house? Like, what is this? But like her trusting him to fix it rather than like calling the demonologist is crazy.
It is crazy. Like, I'd be on that phone to Dr. Avery's like right away.
Right away. All right. Now we're moving on to sips and simmering questions. So these are where we discuss questions sent in by some of our listeners. And we have a couple of good ones this week that were sent in. So number one, this is from Tim Rupert. Again, I love his wording in this. So his question, he sent it in on Instagram. Okay, here we go. Why did these bumpkins not call another demon doctor when the original guy was traveling? And I think that goes to like what we were saying, right?
Yeah, I think what we were just talking about with so the demon doctor, of course, that he's referring to is Dr. Avery's, right? Because Dr. Fredericks was like, this is like out of my league. These are demons. You need to talk to Dr. Avery's. And they tried calling him, but he was out of the country.
So are demonologists like in high demand? You know, he's like, or was he on vacation? Like, I don't know.
I feel like he was on vacation. Maybe he was at a conference or something. Maybe he was just like over there, you know, in
the demonologist conference.
Maybe he was like in Italy or something, like taking care of some things with the Vatican. I don't know.
Maybe he's doing the Pope's exorcism.
Maybe Pope's exorcism, yeah. Maybe they need to tie those together.
They should. Same universe.
I don't know. I feel like Katie would have, but Mika's influence on that and his sort of disdain for it prevented her from doing it, which ultimately kind of led to their demise.
Yeah. And I think too, we don't know when she actually became like fully possessed, right? So like as each nighttime thing was happening, the demon was coming in, like was a little bit of it like getting into her where she was kind of tricking Mika.
Oh,
right? It kind of seemed like that. Like, because her personality, like rewatch it, her personality subtly changes. And I just want to know if that was like a conscious like choice by the actor or the director, because I thought that was so good. And I definitely picked up on that.
Yeah.
So was she just kind of going along with it? Because she's like, I have my own plans, right? I'm going to take
But that scene, right, when Dr. Fredericks when she they can't get a hold of Dr. Avery's and Dr. Fredericks comes back, she seems genuinely terrified.
Yeah, she does. and very hopeless, right? She can't go anywhere. So she's like, might as well stay in the bedroom. But yeah, I don't know. Her trust in Miko was kind of funny. Like he was just like reading that book, like Cliff's Notes for hunting demons or whatever it was, right? It wasn't like, because what's the training for a demonologist? Like, I have no idea.
I'm not sure. I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the Bible, but I don't know.
Right, and we have another question. This one comes to us from Danes Taylor. And this one, I like this one. Okay. Where does Paranormal Activity rank in terms of found footage movies? All right. So we have our Blair Witch. We have Paranormal Activity. We have some other ones like Quarantine, Project X, Cloverfield. Yes.
Yeah. There's been a lot since. I think before then it was Blair Witch. There's been a lot since this.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, absolutely number one.
Yeah. And, Blair Witch, I think, was the originator, and we'll do Blair Witch at a future episode. But this one just took it to the next level. Like this one was horrifying, right? For most of the movie. Yeah. So I think it's number one.
Yeah. I'm not sure anything will ever compete. I think they've tried. Nothing has come close. No. Because it was the first one to do it. It was brilliant. And I think can't replicate it.
And I think like not having the script, so having the actors just do it was like, they were brilliant. These actors were amazing.
Which is what Blair Witch did too, right? Yeah. There was no script for Blair Witch either. Yeah. So he kind of was inspired by that.
He definitely was inspired, but took it, much further. But they have a lot of comedy in this one. They have like that, especially at the beginning, there's comedy during the day, right? But then slowly the comedy goes away and it's just all terror. So yeah, I think this is it. This is number one. This changed everything. It was a cultural like zeitgeist for sure. Okay, so this isn't from a listener. This is from me. I have a question because I want to ask you about it. Okay, so this is my question. This is my simmering question. Would this movie be as scary without sound? Right. So as a silent movie, would it be as scary, or do you need the sound? What do you think?
I think that's really interesting. I don't think it would be as scary without the sound. I think what they did with the footsteps and everything really added to it. Yeah. No, it wouldn't be. And I think some of those old like 70s, 80s movies, we rewatch them and the sound isn't as good and they're not as scary. Mm-hmm. So no, I think it needs the sound. I don't think it needs those visual jump scares like they added at the end, but I do think it needs the sound. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like some of the framing was scary. Like I could come up with my own, I guess interpretations or like scare myself in my own mind, just looking at that. Yeah. But the sound was everything. You're waiting for that thump.
You are.
All right, now we're moving on to sips and sequels. I don't know what to say about this one because Paranormal Activity launched a franchise. There's like 7 movies.
They've exhausted. Let's just say they've exhaused the sequels.
Yeah,
for this movie.
They're getting like creative.
I
have you watched them? Like what?
So this is like kind of like a probably surprising statement for me. You know what? I've never seen the sequels. So this movie, this movie scared me so much that I was too scared to watch the sequels. And I love horror movies. I know what happens in them. I read about them, so I know about the direct sequel to this one, which was sort of a half prequel, half sequel, which I love. And I love the synopsis of of Paranormal Activity too. But I've actually never seen any of them.
Oh wow! You need to go watch Paranormal Activity too. Yes.
Yeah, I need to watch it. I know what happens in it, but yeah.
I've seen like half of them, but it's okay. Paranormal Activity 2 is right up your alley. It is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. No, I know I'll love it.
Kids.
Creepy kids. There's like the little baby and Hunter.
Creepy kids. Like
little baby Hunter in it.
Yeah, little baby Hunter. I think too. So you definitely become like habituated to the nighttime scares. You kind of can predict what it might be tonight.
Which is why, but that's exactly why maybe I didn't want to watch the rest of them.
Yeah. But I don't know, because rewatching the first Paranormal Activity, I'm like, it's still scary, but everything else kind of copied it. But yeah, Paranormal Activity 2, it ups the ante in terms of like the violence, and it has like half prequel, half sequel. And at the end, it shows you what happened to Katie after she left Mika's dead body. Yeah. And she goes to her sister's house and like, basically, spoiler, if you haven't seen it, stop here. But she like kills her sister's husband. And then goes and gets the nephew,
the baby Hunter, the blonde kid that's reminiscent of the Pet Sematary kid. Yeah,
walks out with him, kind of giggling. I don't know what that was. But also a good ending, not like a jump scare, but like she's like crazy. So
yeah. I also love that they tied them in. Again, not someone that's seen the whole movie, but I have done a deep dive and I know what happens sorry, I almost said Pet Sematary, in Paranormal Activity too.
It's just like at the forefront of your brain. You're like,
it always is.
Always.
But I think what was really cool about that, and you know that Oren Peli did not write or direct the second one, right? But just maybe
Right.
that's why. Like, I just want to like stay true to the first one.
Yeah.
But they do tell the origin story of them with like you learn about Christy and her, but like why the demon is going after her.
Yes.
And so like they make that deal so that Christy's husband, right, makes the deal with the demon, who we find out in the second one is named Toby. And so we know the name of the demon at that one from then on. And he basically transfers the demon haunting from Christy to Katie. And he burns, and he had the picture. So he's the one who had that picture and burned it. So that's why it shows up in their house. I don't know if he planted it or the demon planted it, but I think that tells a bit like why this really old picture shows up.
Right.
Because that didn't necessarily make any sense. So I do love that they filled in some of those gaps. But again, would this movie just been okay on its own? I think so. Did it need all these sequels?
So, I mean, I kind of forgot. I did see the second, but I forgot that. So, like, the husband as an adult transferred because his wife was possessed, and he transferred it to Katie. So that's why she started experiencing these things as an adult.
Like a month later. Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
So, so I think, there's,
so she's like, I got a vengeance now.
Yeah, she does.
I'm going to get you back. Yeah. And she does. She has very violent kills. At the end of that movie, she like snaps their necks and then goes after their kid. So, well, that's going to do it for Sips and Screams episode 6, Paranormal Activity. Thank you so much for listening along, sending in your questions. Don't forget to like and rate and subscribe and leave us a review. Join us next time as we sip on more themed cocktails and discuss the good, the bad, the truly terrifying of our favorite horror movies. Cheers.
Cheers.